such great conversation. I've been eavesdropping on several of you. I hope that kind of discussion will continue throughout the day. Yes, good morning again, and welcome to the 2023 H. Kent Weldon Conference of the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. It's my pleasure to be with you. It was a year ago today that I attended this event and spoke from here. Some of you may or may not know that was 6 days before I officially went into this role, and many of you have continued to work with the commission, work with me, and I would just say I'm grateful. So thank you for everything you've been doing in partnership with the commission over the past year. It's just delightful to be with you. If you have not been able to join us in the past, the Weldon Conference is an annual convening of Indiana students, educators, business, community, and government leaders to share and discuss ideas that impact higher education and workforce development within our state. Today, you have the opportunity to participate in engaging breakout sessions that explore ways to drive enrollment and support student success and completion. Themes you will continue to hear from the Commission. First, I'll spend a few minutes sharing a bit about our goals at the Commission. If you have the opportunity, I'd ask you to try to join us tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock for the State of Higher Education address, where you'll hear a lot more about these topics. The goals set forth in Indiana's strategic plan for higher education are focused on increasing the college-going rate for both youth and adults, continuing to improve college completions, and boosting graduate retention. And today, you have the opportunity to participate in engaging breakout sessions that explore proven programs, policies, and partnerships to address these issues. Topics such as the 21st Century Scholarship, Indiana College Corps, the Veterans Education Pathway Task Force, and teacher recruitment efforts all impact Indiana's educational attainment and further the Commission and our state's strategic plan. The overarching goal is to improve economic and social outcomes for all Hoosiers and build a sustainable and robust talent pipeline for employers, all of which, I believe firmly, lead to a strengthened civil society. Economic and social outcomes are better for those with higher levels of education. The facts speak for themselves. Greater levels of wealth, higher wages, lower unemployment rates, higher rates of labor participation, longer life expectancy, lower infant mortality, and less dependency upon supplemental assistance programs. Everyone here today, not only educators, everyone plays a role in building awareness of the value of higher education here in Indiana. And while we're at it, let me just say that the value of higher education in Indiana is downright good. I'll share a little known fact with you, and we're starting to make sure that more Hoosiers know this. When adjusted for inflation, tuition and fees at our public institutions, our public colleges and universities in Indiana, have actually gone down in the past decade. Yeah. Indeed. Our institutions have been working hard. The Commission has been working hard to press for this value. We have great institutions, and I'm delighted to see some of the presidents and others from those institutions with us today. Further, Indiana's financial aid programs are some of the most generous, with nearly $400 million annually available. In fact, another statistic for you here, Indiana is first in the Midwest and fifth in the nation in need-based financial aid. You know, I've come to say lately that we need to abandon Hoosier humility when it comes to these facts. We have a great value for higher education in our state. So let's make sure we're sharing more of those statistics and that information with our fellow Hoosiers. Higher education can be the connective tissue between the economic and education space. And I look forward to hearing from you today about what you've seen that works in our classrooms, in our communities, and in organizations and workplaces that help to strengthen this connection. Today, it's my joy to be able to introduce a fine Indiana leader and a friend, the chair of Indiana's Commission for Higher Education, Judd Fisher. Judd has been engaged not only with the commission over the past several years and in this specific role, but in his community and in the state in strengthening our system of higher education in Indiana. He is a tireless worker in that regard. He has helped to set a vision to put this state on an even more favorable course as we move toward the future. And on a personal note, I don't know that I could have asked for anyone to be more supportive with advice and counsel and ideas than Judd Fisher in the last 12 months. So please join me in welcoming the chair of the Indiana Commission for Higher Education to the podium. Judd, thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Commissioner Lowry, for the introduction. I want to welcome you all to the 2023 H. Kent Weldon Conference. This annual event serves as an opportunity for all members of the education and workforce community to come together and discuss the most important topics in higher education in Indiana. For those of you I have not had the pleasure to meet, my name is Judd Fisher, and I have the privilege to serve as the chair of the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. I have had the honor of working with the state's institutions, my fellow commission members, 3 different commissioners, and the wonderful commission staff over my nearly 16 years on the commission. And I can tell you that ICHE has worked hard to strengthen this state through partnerships across Indiana. Along with serving on the commission, I'm president and CEO of Ball Brothers Foundation, a family organization dedicated to the pursuit of improving the quality of life in Indiana through philanthropy and leadership. We often hear stories of people who have overcome tremendous odds to become successful individuals who contribute to society. Many of these individuals are in our classrooms. These individuals, whom we sometimes call outliers, are those who take advantage of extraordinary opportunities and hidden potential. As we know, the educational pathways available in the state of Indiana are plentiful. Through the programs such as 21st Century Scholars, students' lives are being changed every day. As I look around this room, I'm encouraged to see education professionals from K through 12 and post-secondary, particularly those who are often on the front line working directly with students in multiple capacities, as well as employers and policymakers. The topic of this year's conference is Against All Odds: Powerful Practices to Drive Educational Opportunity. It is my hope that today we'll bring together a variety of perspectives as we consider the ways educational opportunities in Indiana change the lives of students and propel them into the workforce. It is my pleasure to be joined today by our keynote speaker, Morgan Torres. At the age of 17, Morgan joined the military. Much of her senior year of high school was spent enduring challenging days of training. After graduating from high school, Morgan left her hometown of Monticello, Indiana, to prepare for her role in the Army Reserve. As a student at Purdue University, Morgan embraced every opportunity that came her way and served as the first female president of the Purdue Student Veteran Organization for 2 years. After receiving her bachelor's degree in political science and sociology, she worked as a legislative assistant at the Indiana Senate. Today, Morgan is the director of the Veteran Success Center at Purdue University. Following Morgan's keynote address, there will be an opportunity for members of the audience to ask questions. Before we welcome Morgan to the stage, we have a message from Governor Holcomb.
Hello, I'm Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb. Thank you so much for bringing your talents together, because there couldn't be a more vital assignment to our present and our future. Education and training beyond a high school diploma are obviously major contributing factors to economic mobility and prosperity, and both lead to overall better outcomes for individuals, our communities, and our entire state. Hoosiers are the true embodiment of grit, From our very first days as a state back in 1816 to today, we've been working against all odds to overcome adversity and realize our true full potential. We do this not just for ourselves, but for our families and our communities, and to build a brighter future for the next generation. There are so many great examples of Hoosiers and our institutions across our state leading the way by providing pathways to success. Just one example out of the many is the 21st Century Scholars Program, which has enabled tens of thousands of students to learn that it's possible for them to earn a college degree by putting in no money themselves if they put in the work. In a moment, you'll hear from a Hoosier who put in the work and who has devoted her life to service in all forms and just happens to be a 21st century scholar. Morgan Torres, who I'm thrilled to have recently appointed to the Indiana Veterans Task Force, will share with you some of the ways she's broken down barriers in life, in college, and in the military. When you hear her powerful testimony, her story, I'm betting you too will be inspired by Morgan. And I'm grateful to you all for your constant commitment to learning about the best practices that ensures no one is overlooked and paves the way again for more stories just like Morgan's down the road.
So let's welcome Morgan up here to the stage.
How about now? Awesome. Okay. So thank you so much for having me. It's really, I would argue, quite difficult to follow the governor of Indiana, but I will try my very best. Speaking of which, if you do not follow his dog on Instagram, I highly recommend following his dog on Instagram. This morning he was tending to chickens. Very good. Thank you all for having me here today. I genuinely was casually planning on attending today, and then I got a phone call and a request to give this speech, and I was me? Why did that be? But we'll get into that a little bit later. So again, thank you for having me. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. I hope that throughout the day, the conversations that you have, you're able to take something back to the universities that we represent and start conversations, implement ideas, and gather something that you can take from this conference. So briefly, who do we have in the audience that works directly with 21st Century Scholar students? Please raise your hand. Okay. Specifically, who in the audience works within a student support center? Please raise your hand. A handful of you. Who in the audience specifically works with military-connected students? Okay, thank you. So, before we get started, I'm going to present specifically about Campus Toolkit that I have for that demographic of students, 21st Century Scholars in conjunction with military-connected students. Briefly, a brief bio of who I am. Right minutes ago, I was quite literally a stranger to you. But as mentioned, I am the director of the Veteran Success Center at Purdue University. So we oversee roughly 1,700 military-connected students who we support them in a variety of ways. We advocate for them on our campuses, things like priority registration, military absence leave policies, military withdrawal policies are very beneficial for that demographic of students. We also oversee the processing and the benefits of those education benefits at a university level. Prior to that, I served as the assistant director, and then prior to that, I did graduate in the year of 2020. Does everyone remember 2020? I received my diploma in the mail, which was in light of the pandemic. And it was truly unfortunate, but also I recognize that I probably would have complained either way. So that's that. But also, I'm the oldest of three. Give me 1 second. Where's this clicker? Where do I point this at? Oh boy. I'm the oldest of three, which that's important for later on in the presentation, but worth mentioning here. And then I do serve in the United States Army. I'm on my 9th year of service. I've worn many hats in the Army. I've served in many capacities, in many different challenging and both rewarding opportunities. All to say, it has been one of the best experiences of my entire life. The most important thing, however, is that my dog, Peppercorn here, she just turned 2 years old, and we have ran collectively together over 502 miles. Okay. So if you already know what the 21st Century Scholar Program is and you're an expert in it, then tune me out for a second. But if you're not aware, briefly what it is it's a college promise to a student that meets specific eligibility requirements, some of them being Indiana state residency, certain citizenship stipulations, a specific timeline when the application has to be filled out within the 7th or the 8th grade, and then also there's income eligibility requirements. But if you can do all that, what it computes to is a 2 or 4 year scholarship at 100% tuition at an eligible Indiana college or university. So that's what it is. So it starts in the 8th grade, so how do you maintain that kind of benefit? That's a lot of years, right, to actually see it come to fruition. It starts with an application, specifically on scholartrack.im.gov, and then that was different when I originally enrolled, but that is the current situation for now. And then it's maintained. How you maintain it, how you keep the benefit, is that you make annual pledges coined as boot camp. It's formerly known as basic combat training. For those of you that do not know, when you join the military, you go through an initial training that conditions you to the military lifestyle. That happens for every single person in the military. You will go through this. You may or may not graduate. So I had graduated from that, and then I was late to my senior year of high school. And my goodness, when a teacher asked for engagement, first hand up. I was absolutely disciplined, and I respected a teacher and all the good things. So then I finished out my senior year of high school. I graduated, and the next day I had to go to my second phase of military training. So when you join the military, majority of individuals in the military are what's called enlisted. Okay? And what that means is you, at a base minimum, have to have a GED, and then you can go to the local recruiting office, say you're interested, and they will make sure that you get to a point where you raise your right hand and you join the military. So how that works is you go to the recruiter, you say you're interested, and then they send you to an in-processing center. At this in-processing center, that's where you negotiate, if you are enlisted, a contract with the military. So anyone in the military is serving likely, now this is not every single case, but this is the majority, on a 3, 4, 6-year contract, and that's negotiated during that in-processing. Does that make sense? And what you're presented with in a contract is, over here, you have individuals retiring, and as they're retiring, that job specialty is eventually going to get populated, and then they do this wonderful giant equation, and they tack in a bonus, and they, et cetera, and then they present to the interested person in the military a contract. And that's where you negotiate additional education benefits, such as a kicker to your GI Bill, or a student loan repayment plan. You can negotiate this back and forth with the military when you are signing a contract. So I signed a 6-year contract under an 88M, no idea what that was. And 88M was the job specialty I was to be. And from here on out, I'm going to call it 88 Mike. That's the correct phonetic classification of that specific job. But that was the job I was going to do, and I was, cool, that's wonderful. Real quick, there are all sorts of jobs in the military. You can be a veterinarian. You can be a laundry specialist. You could be a demolition expert. You could be a lawyer. Truly, there are so many opportunities in the military. I feel like I have heard a bunch of them. So again, my specialty was supposed to be an 88 Mike. No idea what that was until I showed up to that training, and they walked us out to this really giant just massive parking lot with all of these up-armored vehicles that looked really scary, and I swear they stretched beyond my peripheral vision, and I immediately questioned everything. I was like, oh no, this is what I have to do for the military? Oh boy. Goodness. So that is what I was doing right after I graduated from high school, learning how to sit in all these turrets and why this vehicle has a pressure system of X number, etc., etc. So at that point, once I had completed that training, I then went to Bird University. I think a pictured timeline is much more fun. So again, it's junior year, homecoming, square pizza, straight into boot camp. Individuals are yelling in your face, and that's exactly how it is. Then you come back and you're going to your senior year, and there's prom, and there's yearbooks, and again, that's repeat that, and all the things that you're doing senior year, right? You're also applying for college, which is a part of my checklist. And that's absolutely what I was doing my senior year as well. But one thing that also came as a conclusion of my senior year was my award letter from the 21st Century Scholar. I had done it, right? All those years of maintaining these pledges and checklists, and I assure you, it may seem easy, but it absolutely, there were challenges sometimes. It's difficult to maintain a certain GPA. It's difficult to remember the timeline. It can be difficult when you have additional siblings, also managing their things, their own timelines, and it was a lot of hard work, is what I'm trying to say. And I went back to the military and learned how to drive all these vehicles. And right after that, I went to Purdue University. So that may have seemed pretty streamlined, but I assure you, it was anything but that. I want to briefly pause and just, I hope from this presentation, you gather my severe amount of appreciation that this program gave to us at a very young age. My father is an immigrant. To this day, to this morning, I am still translating emails, text messages, all sorts of things, because his first language is not English. So providing a parent with that situation going on, with a checklist, with a trajectory, with goals of how to get your kiddo to something that would be incredibly beneficial in the future, was an insurmountable help for our family, and quite literally changed the dynamic of how we viewed our future. So I hope that if anything, you gather that this program literally changed our options. Not only that, I was a first generation college student. We weren't talking about scholarships. We weren't talking about the FAFSA or how to connect the dots to get housing, and et cetera, et cetera. All the minutia of higher education, all the preparatory steps that we do, that was not a part of our vernacular. That is not a conversation we were having. But we were having the conversation about the checklist, about what our next step was, about the pledge. And we kept making the pledge, and we kept following the checklists, and it quite literally gave us a trajectory forward. So I want to bring you back to that pictured timeline I just showed you. So I was quite literally learning how to do military, vehicle, all the things, right? Where was my phone? Where was my means of communication during this military training? AKA, where were all of these emails from Purdue going? They're going to my phone, and all of my means of communication were locked away behind a drill sergeant. It's worth a Google search. Please, today, if you have any free moment, Google drill sergeant. Thank you. So that's where my phone was. What are students doing the summer before they go to higher education? They're probably doing a campus tour. They're probably registering for classes, learning about loans, learning about federal work-study opportunities, learning about housing, moving into that housing. And August 5th was when I got my phone back. August 5th was when I got my phone back. Now, we all in this room know a traditional academic year starts mid to late August, right? This particular year, school started August 20th. In 15 days, figure out everything. So this is something that I chose. And it's not a lack of communication on Purdue's end. I had 500 emails. So there was certainly an effort of communication. But the last thing I knew, I'll just be mindful of this quarter share this with you. So it's August 5th. I've learned all of the ins and the outs of all of those military vehicles. I assure you, you can test me. I graduated from this training, and then I'm given back my phone, and I'm given back orders. Orders are lawful orders, written on a piece of paper, what you'll do next in your military career. At that point in my military career, I had finished the boot camp, I had finished my job specialty training, and the next thing for me was to report to my unit, and that's exactly what my order said. In addition to pick up your life where you left it off. So I had my phone back, I had my papers back, I had all this knowledge of PSI and pressure and gauges and all this good stuff. And my duffel bag, all my belongings were right behind me, and I look this direction, and there's 300 other soldiers in the same exact situation. And I look this direction, and there's 300 other soldiers in the same exact situation, and we're all waiting on one yellow bus to take us to the airport. So I turned my phone on, and I got over 500 emails from Purdue University. Like I said, there was no lack of communication. I just decided to massively complicate things, right? What happened was I was clearly overwhelmed by the amount of communication that there was. I started opening the emails. Housing? What? I don't really, what do you mean housing? I figured I'd just show up to college. I had to register in my college? I thought I was accepted into college. Registrar? Registering for courses? What do you mean? All of these things, I'm just trying to highlight the lack of preparatory knowledge that I had going into something as complex as higher education, right? There's a lot of things that have to go right and be set up for a student to make it. I was behind the curve and was always good. In addition to other text messages that I received when I turned this phone on, I also received a text message from Jacob. And this person said, hey, this is Jacob. I'm a student at Purdue. I'm from the PACE peer program in the Veteran Success Fund. I'm part of a peer program in the Veteran Success Center. And I said, hi, Jacob. Okay, hi. What do you mean? And he texted back and he said, well, I'm just wondering if you filled out your paperwork for the GI Bill. And I texted back, I'm not a veteran. What do you mean GI Bill? 2 years in the military at this point, and that was my perception of what I had earned for my GI Bill benefit. 2 years. So I said, well, Jacob, what do you mean? He texts back, he says, well, there's actually 5 GI Bills, and you qualify for one, and et cetera, and here's the paperwork to fill it out. I said, okay, Jacob, I'm not really doing much. I'm just sitting on this concrete pad with my duffel bag. If you can send this to me, I'll fill it out. I'll send it back to you. And so we did just that. This is another student just helping me. So I filled out the paperwork, sent it back. He's like, okay, we'll send it to our certifying officials and they'll get it processed tomorrow. And they absolutely did that. And then I said, Jacob, could you help me with some of these emails? Can I screenshot them and send them to you? What is housing? The last thing I remember was I filled out the Common App, I wrapped that all up, and then I got my acceptance letter for Purdue University. I figured my next step is just to show up, right? Right? And he was like, well, not necessarily. There's a few more things you need to do. And let's get started. That individual walked me through housing, billing, got me connected to Purdue Promise, which is an additional opportunity specifically at Purdue for 21st century scholars, with some guidance, stipulations and methods. But that individual absolutely got me connected. And do you want to know what that GI Bill did? I was a first generation student. Have you looked at the statistics of dropout rate for first generation students? One of them being the fact that they have to support themselves, which was absolutely my case. That GI Bill, while it wasn't that much, absolutely sustained me. That person made a huge impact, a rippling effect. That GI Bill went to sometimes my rent, sometimes laundry soap, groceries, etc., etc. It absolutely sustained me. My college experience, in addition to attending my courses on the very first day of class, I also went to the Veteran Success Center. And from there on out, I made that place home. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. That's where I was outside of my class schedule. They were so impactful to me. They were so knowledgeable about what I needed to know about. I had the first generation needs going on, but I also had the military needs going on. I needed to know about what happens if I get deployed. What happens if I have a longer military obligation where I need to show up Thursday through Monday? How do I navigate that conversation with my professors? And they fulfilled my needs. Veteran Success Center is still home, so I've quite literally set up camp. That's where I currently work right now. In addition to the Veteran Success Center being massively impactful to my story, I continued to see 21st century scholar resources on campus already be around me without me even being aware of it. For example, my first week of courses, I was enrolled in a GS course, GS 170. It was a general studies course, and when I went, they said, "Welcome to the Purdue Promise course. You are likely a 21st century scholar student." And in that course, we talked about resumes, and we talked about financial literacy and scholarships. There was a wealth of knowledge shared in that course, and I had not even realized how impactful that was going to be. In my experience working with students, they talk about their resumes and LinkedIn and jobs and financial and budgeting, like last semester, senior year. We were doing that first semester, freshman year. What a game changer. What a game changer. I was already doing those things so that when I was presented with an opportunity, I had a resume. When I needed to be professional on LinkedIn, I already was. Because I was a 21st century scholar and qualified for an additional program at Purdue University. Purdue Promise also afforded me the opportunity to study abroad. Had I not been allowed that sort of information, that sort of opportunity, I probably would not have done it. And I was able to with that program. My college experience also highly revolved around a contact and a mentor in the Department of Financial Aid. I greatly needed to know how scholarships work, how things work. What is a W-2? All the things regarding FAFSA, all the things. I made the Department of Financial Aid hold my hand all 4 years of college, and I'm not ashamed to say that. But I also gave back to a degree where I eventually got nationally recognized as a top 10 student veteran of America. I got so involved in campus. How could I not? Everywhere I turned, there were offices pouring hours of their time, of mentorship, of making sure that I saw an opportunity so that I could excel, so that I could succeed while I was at Purdue. It wasn't just go to classes, etc., etc. These individuals were quite literally, hey, here's what that W-2 is. And here's where you need to get it. And here's etc., etc. The wealth of knowledge that the professional staff at Purdue, I know there's wonderful staff at every other university as well, but specifically for my situation at Purdue, I am biased, provided me was unbelievable. And I could not quite grasp it until nowadays, where I see how impactful it was. So, I have come up with a campus toolkit, if you will, to quite literally address the theme of this conference, against the odds, powerful practices to drive educational opportunity. And I hope that what you see through this presentation are the areas of support that I, as a student, received, and it massively impacted me. For your 21st century scholars and for your first generation students, the Department of Financial Aid contact, someone willing to take walk-in appointments and handhold your students is massively important for this demographic of students, in my experience, right? I think that someone specialized in the FAFSA and having access to that individual's FAFSA and where it is in the queue and what their status is so important for these students who are trying to figure it out by themselves. It is not like they are asking their parents. Very quickly, a first-generation student is going to make these professional staff their parents. Very quickly, that will happen. Someone that's an expert in scholarships. In my experience with working with students, they think that scholarships are going to be direct deposited into their account. Boy, oh boy, is that not the case. And that they don't need to report them to the university. Goodness, I cannot believe how many times I have to be the bearer of bad news. Someone, an expert, a resource in scholarships. Hey, this is for tuition. Hey, these are the eligible requirements. Hey, once you get the scholarship, you have to do X, Y, Z. Someone who serves as an expert and loves this field is a game changer. Truly a game changer to bridging the gap of knowledge for this demographic of students. General courses. Earlier I shared with you the fact that my first week of class was involved in general studies course, and immediately I was enrolled in a wonderful resource, right? General courses, if not already existing on your campus, would be a great place to start. General courses to touch on financial literacy, budgeting, resume workshop, LinkedIn workshop, free professional headshots, etc., would greatly benefit your students. Maximize sharing opportunities. How many opportunities a day do we as staff come about? I don't know about you all, but I see so many research opportunities, internship opportunities, etc. Something you can do tomorrow is purchase a corkboard and just print off those student opportunities and put them up into a student space. That's something you could do tomorrow. That's something we do in our office, and our students and our visiting students often often are standing in front of it, taking pictures, and figuring out the ropes. Coaching sessions. As part of Purdue Promise, because I was a 21st Century Scholar, I qualified for bi-semester coaching sessions. And I had to register to meet with my success coach once a semester. And that was very powerful. Someone to check into, someone who was kind of acting as parent, honestly. Someone that was keeping me accountable, because remember, that college checklist we talked about earlier, that's still something I had to do. So a person of professional staff at the university was making sure I was maintaining this checklist, was making sure I was doing all the things I needed to do so that I wouldn't get into a situation where I lose the situation that I had. Last but not least, for this demographic of student, I would highly recommend what I call student portfolios. I have a binder in my office, and when a student complains, I'm failing this class, or my kid is keeping me awake all night, or etc., I close that gap right there. You're failing class. You know about this tutoring resource, and then in a week, I'm going to follow up. Hey, did you reach out to that tutoring resource? No, I didn't, blah, blah, blah. But building that check-in without them asking, at least keeps it fresh in their mind, keeps the resource available into their mind, and it builds a degree of support that they will absolutely feel. I have a pile this thick, probably, of students who have said things like, my kid kept me awake all night. Time management. Hey, are you aware of this time management workshop? Here's how to get it. In a week, I'm going to check in with you. The student portfolio binder is something I organically created. It's a very generic document that I pull out for each and every student. I work in student affairs, and that's the name of the game. And essentially, it's a very generic document. I fill it out, first name, last name, a way to contact them, and a timeline update on what's going on until we remediate that issue. And doing that might very much mean the difference of getting a student tutoring assistance so that they don't go on to academic probation and then lose something like the 21st Century Scholar Program, right? Or if you get them time management resource, they might be able to navigate how to be a non-traditional student a little bit better, or they might feel a little bit supported. For your military-connected students, again, please raise your hand if you work with military-connected students on your campus. Okay, raise them high. Okay, wonderful. Please keep them raised. Okay, please raise your hand if you know anyone in the service. I'm going to ask you all to help me get this information in front of those individuals, to close that gap, so that individuals aren't sitting on their duffel bag saying, no, I don't qualify for a GI Bill, why are you texting me? All service members, depending on their discharge, likely, again I say this likely, qualify for a GI Bill. And there's a lot of confusion around this. The GI Bill is a VA benefit, just like VA healthcare, VA home loan, there's the VA GI Bill. And this is where I would write something down. The GI Bill starts with a phone call to the VA. And they have to obtain their COE, Certificate of Eligibility. That is one of the best things you can share with the service member. how to get your benefits, right? Once they obtain their certificate of eligibility, what that document is it says, official letterhead from the VA, it says so-and-so service member qualifies for this benefit at this percentage, at this rate, etc., and then they take that document and then they go to their university of choice to use that GI Bill benefit. Does that make sense? Hopefully? Okay. There is a lot of confusion about the GI Bill in small ways. I would love to squash it. So, in addition to the GI Bill, there are incredible state benefits for Indiana veterans. I am truly so proud to be a part of the state of Indiana and their initiatives towards veterans. One of those is the Indiana Child of a Disabled Veteran benefit, in addition to the Purple Heart recipient benefit. Both of those are managed by the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs. That is not the same VA that manages the GI Bill. Okay. Lastly, there are federal benefits. If you know someone currently serving, they will likely qualify for federal tuition assistance, which is nearly free tuition. In addition to that, every once in a while we see a DoD education voucher, majority from the Navy. I'm not sure what that is, but that is so impactful if you know a service member and you can share that with them. For your military-connected students, the campus toolkit that I would share with them is if your university has in place military absence leave policies, military withdrawal policies. Those are incredibly helpful when a service member gets deployed, which you will likely see on our campuses. It happens a handful of times every single semester at Purdue University. Additionally, if your current service members don't already have priority registration when they're registering for courses, that's a great place to start. Priority registration, I'm sure we have a rough idea of what it is, but how it works out at Purdue is that the courses become available, and then the seniors get first pick, juniors, sophomore, freshmen. That's why freshmen end up with like the 715 and the 430 labs. And then they spend the majority of the day with us, so that's great. But priority registration on our campus is before all of that. We have active duty service members on our campus right now serving because they were told to come to Purdue University and study biomedical nuclear engineering and then go back to the force at a specific date and time with that degree in hand, prepared and ready to then share the wealth of the knowledge. That's happening on our campus right now. So priority registration is probably really beneficial for them, right? CAT card enabled computers. If you have a veteran center, a military connected student center, every service member has what's called a military identification card, commonly known as a CAT card. What that CAT card gives you access to are the documents you need for your GI Bill. So, you know, like a circle. The CAT card computer in our office, I have had to split up hours because the students use it so much because they're currently serving and they need access to military websites. And they can't do so unless they have the Common Access Card, that's what that stands for, accessibility to do so. Personal story I'm going to put in here. I tried to download all the military software onto my own personal computer when I was a student because I had so many military obligations that I needed to sign orders, I needed to get onto Army Ignited to fill out federal tuition assistance. I needed to pull a document from iPerms. I needed to do all these things that were gatekept by this common access card access, okay? And I couldn't do it, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do it on my computer. Broke my computer. Broke my computer. Literally. During finals week, that's what happened, and I was in a world of hurt because, of course, I saved everything to my desktop. And so this is another, don't take it to your desktop, only your desktop. So all my final documents, all my end of semester essays, etc., all were on that computer. A study center is a huge, huge, and massively important resource for military-connected students. The number one thing a military-connected student needs is other military-connected students that understand them, get them, can say 188 Mike, 1 to 12 November. Okay, we're best friends. We're BFF, TWD, till we die. So, it's a powerful resource to that specific demographic of students. Traditionally, they're a little bit older. Traditionally, they likely have a lot more worldly life experience that is not translatable in the classroom. So that's why I say they need that common niche area on campus. Actually, our own Veteran Success Center was made possible by a group of student veterans voicing the fact that they needed organized staff support, and that is the whole reason our office stands today. With this demographic of students, I would also suggest, again, that student orientation or peer program, the Jacobs of the world, made all the world a difference for me, right? That is incredibly beneficial to military-connected students, so they can squash the benefit confusion, so they can squash the, hey, I'm in Germany, I know this is weird, I'm in Germany, but can you meet me on video teams at 6 p.m. because that's this particular situation? Reaching out to that demographic of students is incredibly important prior to them getting onto campus, so they have things squared away so that they can be successful on campus. And then lastly, I'm almost wrapped up, but lastly, awareness training. Look at the current awareness trainings that your university currently provides and see where they could go, or if they don't exist, maybe you could create one. At Purdue, we created what's called Green Zone training, where we give bi-semester workshops. There are 2 hours of instruction where I share and present on the military experience in conjunction with what that military experience transition to higher education looks like. Really powerful. I take a pre-evaluation survey of their knowledge of the military and a post-evaluation survey of what they learned. And now they are comfortable talking about the VA. Now they're comfortable talking to service members. They're comfortable talking about the GI Bill because they have a place to start. Awareness trainings are absolutely wonderful, and I would argue we should be on every campus. So, to wrap up, when we talk about against the odds and what can we do on our campuses to help those students, I hope that you have learned something, or you could chew on something for the rest of the day that you can take back to your campus and possibly start a conversation about, or connect resources. That is the conclusion of my presentation. Questions, I believe, for the next 12 minutes and 9 seconds. And I will try my very best to answer all the questions. If I do not answer your question to fulfillment, you can provide me with your email address and I will email you an answer.
Okay, go back to your 13-year-old self, 13, 14. What's the one thing you wish someone had said at 13, 14 that you could have grabbed hold of that would have helped you make that transition from middle school to high school, other than check the box, get signed up?
That the world is in your hands, and that it's up to you to figure out where you go forward. Absolutely. That would have been very beneficial to hear at the age of 13. Because at that point, we were so clogged down with those checklists, and I felt like I just needed to do it because this is the next thing, and this is the next thing, but that would have been very positive to hear. In addition, like one more thing, given our upbringing, given our background, we worked really hard to have the lifestyle that we had and to have the family unit that we had, and not a single hour of the day was wasted. Just to share something with you, my dad is from Mexico, and he brought over a trade working on bullhorns. And when we came home from school, we were shaping bullhorns. It's not something I really wanted to oh, I can't do this because I'm shaving bullhorns. But we were. And to me, at that point, I felt like if I don't do these checklists, I'm going to be shaving bullhorns for my entire life. So, absolutely, the world is in your hands. Would have been beneficial to hear.
I'm coming.
Hi, so a trend that I continue to see was just kind of for these student populations to have a space of gathering where they can kind of collectively have that community, and it sounded like you had a group of veterans that allowed your space to be successful and to be constructed. How would you advise professional staff to approach that necessity of needing that space but not really knowing how to navigate that?
Absolutely. It's a great question. Here's where I would start. Majority of universities are accepting the GI Bill. And in order to accept the GI Bill, which is really a really wonderful thing for a university to accept the GI Bill, and it's not all that controversial, it's something you want to do as a higher education university, find where your certifying official is. They might be in your Bursar office, they might be elsewhere at registrar's office, enrollment management, but find that contact, because lawfully, in order to have the GI Bill program on your campus and available as an option for service members, you have to have a point of contact for that person to go to. So they're somewhere on your campus, the certifying official. And that's exactly what happened with our office. Our certifying official was originally in the registrar's office. And once the student group started advocating, hey, we need some organized support, we really need some help with the understanding of GI Bill, we got our certifying official to say the same thing, basically. And she absolutely said, yeah, they have a lot of questions, and this is a bullet point of my job. I need this one bullet point to be my full-time job. So both of those, the student voice, in addition to what that certifying official was able to speak to, the amount of questions that they filtered, et cetera, we were able to combine the two and make that happen. Student Veterans of America, SVA, is a wonderful resource of where to start as well. SVA is a bunch of individuals like myself that are part of these grassroots startup offices that support veterans.
Just wanted to say thank you for your time today. Going back to your high school self, kind of like that Jacob, with enroll, enlist, and employ, what type of cool toolkit could be done at the high school level?
Ooh, that's a wonderful question. I would say the type of toolkit that could have been done was, I think it would have been beneficial to, at a young age, to visit campus. Like maybe one day where you just, it's organized by the school, the advisor, like all the Purdue future attendees, we're going to Purdue and we're going to do a thing. Just to, so I at a young age would realize how complex it was and how much I needed to be responsible of making sure that everything was squared away would have been helpful in addition to all the resources and help that I received from my advisor getting through the Common App, because I wasn't able to contextualize that there's housing needs when you go to college and there's financial aid, and it felt like ripping off a Band-Aid, truly, because I didn't understand the complexities of it at a young age.
Do you currently work with any high schools with your current position?
No.
Take one more. Now, when you talk about a certifying official, not every county in Indiana has a service officer. So would a service officer be able to certify?
No. No, so what you're referencing is every county in Indiana should have what's called a veteran service officer, a VSO. That is not the same person as a certifying official. A certifying official is on your campus if you are receiving the GI Bill. If you look up, like, insert your university name and then put veteran or GI Bill, it'll like really populate a contact.